Hi everyone, it's Chris Yoke at Yoke Pin Company, and today I'm here going to demonstrate my new line of pliers I had made. These pliers are for adjusting oblique nib holders, the flanges. There was several problems with standard tools in adjusting flanges, so I decided to go out and find someone to make them to my specs. We'll start with these. Although they look like typical bail making pliers, which I used for a long time, there was one problem with bail making pliers, for me that was, at least as far as ease of use, was the fact that the jaws closed completely, and what could happen is you could actually pinch the metal and it would crease it. So what I had done was, these jaws are actually separated just slightly with thousandths of an inch. That allows you to close them down and they're not going to damage the flange and crimp it, crease it, etc. Same thing, you know, with the typical pliers which everyone used, which is these round nose, needle nose. What they would very easily do is, because you're rolling, these are at an angle and you're trying to roll this thing straight, and to do that, I mean, you would technically have to move the plier up along and change the angle of it as you shape the flange. So with these being perfectly cylindrical, it's just a matter of it lays right there and it forms, and I'll show you here in a minute. The other thing I had made was the same thing, and these are called a Duckbill Plier, but I again had them create a small gap in here. That allows, when you're making your own flanges, which I'll demonstrate as well after I show how to adjust, it allows you to not crease them and crimp them so very tight. And I also wanted a swelled duckbill so that there was corners for those of you that prefer to grab and pinch the corners of your flange when you're adjusting the flange to fit a new nib, and we'll show you that here in a second. We'll start with using them to adjust a flange, because that's what most people will do. You know, as you know, you get a flange adjusted on a standard flange and it fits one nib and one nib alone. And nibs have very different arcs to them. So in order to make them fit each pin, you have to adjust that arc. And to adjust that arc, what people have typically done is, you know, you grab the oddball pointy needle nose here, you bend it, shape it, whatever, and you try and do it, and then you end up with creases and folds, and I've seen some that are just a complete and utter mess. So I wanted something very, very simple, and it's the same tool I use for making the flanges. So right now I've got, this is a Leonard Principle, well, actually that's a Zenarian fine writer, but same difference, same kind of arc on it, and it fits this one. So say I got that holder and I wanted to use, say, a G nib on it. Well, as you can see, it doesn't slide into it, and the reason for that is the arc, I'm going to try and show you in the camera here, is very, very steep compared to that. So what you need to do is increase that to be a much steeper arc. And what I'm going to do is, you just grab it with the pliers and you simply roll it. You squeeze it a little bit and roll it. And by doing that, you're not damaging all the brass, and keep rolling it enough to where this nib will fit in there. Give me 1 second here. There it is. And I can adjust it a little bit more, even because I'm using the small end here. That's the small end, goes on the underside of the flange. You can see it fits almost perfectly right into any nib almost. And I can even adjust it with the nib in it a little bit and make it to where it slides right in and out. I mean, you want it so it doesn't just fall out, but that's all it took to adjust that. Simply was just, it's seriously just a little rolling motion. and changing the arc. And if you wanted to, you know, go from that G size, you would do the opposite. You would roll it the opposite way. If it's very, very tight, you can grab a little screwdriver or something and stick in between and do it. But that's rare. With these bail making type pliers, it's just a matter of rolling it, and because it's completely cylindrical, it's a quick roll and not having to do a little bit, adjust, do a little bit. It's a quick roll. And then the other pliers I had made, I said, with a little swell on them, because some people like to do a little bit of extra securing, and by having that little corner on there, it allows you to come in and you can crimp it down, and because it's sticking out just a little bit, you can crimp it on all four corners if you wish. But personally, I just form this so that it fits and holds it tight. I mean, there's really no need on a standard type flange to crimp the corners. If everything's adjusted properly, it'll hold it perfectly in position without moving side to side, and you're good to go. And that does it pretty much all in one tool. I mean, all you need is that single pair of pliers right there and you're done. If you wish to crimp it, then you can get these others. I call them the flat nose and the round nose pliers is what I'm calling them for my line. Then we'll get into shaping a flange. You take a standard sheet of brass, and I'll just kind of go over all of it. I've done a video on this before, but we'll do it with these new tools just from the beginning. This is a 1/2 inch wide by 2 inch long strip of 10/1000ths of an inch thick brass. You can get it quite easily. It's readily available almost anywhere in the world. You simply cut it and trim it to that size. To make your flange, you're going to, this is the way I do it. I grab it and I pull it together and I line these ends up. And then once I see that kind of everything's lined up with these new pliers, all you got to do is slide it in here. It's wide enough to accept the whole thing, and you squeeze down. And because internally they're a smooth jaw and there's also a gap, you're not going to create a very tight crease. It's ready to go. Once you've done that, grab the same pliers, the same round nose pliers used for adjusting, and again you're going to be using the small end, and what we're going to do is roll it over it. And you're going to roll it over it just like that, rolling it over that small, that's a 3mm end, and you've created this shape right there. Okay, and the way I do it, I make them for general use, so you may be doing this for your exact nib. I use a Leonard principle. Let me grab one. And the reason I use a Leonard principle for everything is A, it's popular. B, lengthwise, it's an intermediate size. There are longer nibs like your G's, and I'll show you for example, much longer. And then there's also much shorter, like about 66 EF or what have you. And this is just a general purpose middle size nib, and it gives a good starting point. So once I've got that little J shape to it, I slide the nib in, I leave a little bit of extra room on the outside, and then I hold this together, get it placed in here into the flat nose pliers, and I'm going to leave about 1/16 of an inch between the nib and the pliers. And with these being perfectly straight, it allows you to easily look at it and see that you're square with the nib and everything, and you do a quick fold up. Once you're folded up, there's your nib flange shaped. It's ready to go. It's roughly adjusted to an intermediate size nib, and then you cut it, mount it however you normally do. And these two pliers now, instead of having, I would have my bail making pliers, I would have flat nose needle nose, I would have, you know, another pair of needle nose, and I'd have all these, and now I can get rid of every single one of these and replace it with just these two. These two will do every operation I need to not only make but adjust every single oblique flange there is. I don't need anything else. It's great. And the other thing is that looking at, we'll take for example bail making pliers. Number one, if you ever tried to find any, and I've had so many people email me and ask me, they're always out of stock everywhere. Because they're such an odd use plier, it's not common. And secondly, the prices, I mean, they go from I think I pick them up at Hobby Lobby. I wanted to say the last time I did it was almost $18, and that was for a no-name cheap Chinese made, just standard metal, up to, there's brand names that are $30 and $40 for the pliers. These are stainless steel, so they're not going to rust. The joints are, they don't have the nut and bolt cheapo construction. They stay together for a long time. They got rubber grips, and they're going to last you a lifetime. I mean, they're really, really good. And not only that, you know, those tolerances that I had done, you know, to keep from creasing the metal, because we're using it for such a specific purpose that it really wasn't designed for. It was designed for making round designs with wire and jewelry and such. So, but anyway, the prices were like $18 to $40, something like that. And right now I just got done figuring out the prices, and each one is going to be roughly around the $13 mark retail. So it's going to save you a few bucks, and it's going to be specifically designed for our purpose with pins, which we've never had. We've always just used a general hardware store tool that wasn't helpful and made it difficult, and you ended up, you know, mangling nibs, you know, or nib flanges. You know, I've seen people and have these pliers and they're trying to shape it, and you know, this one's not right. So, and they come to me like that, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Which you can reshape them, but what's the point in that when you could have one simple tool that, you know, it would even straighten out a mangled flange. There it is, it's round again, all because these are completely cylindrical. That should be it. The last thing is, I'm going to leave my other video up of the old way, just because it has more in-depth things of lining up the nib, you know, with the center axis and all of that, the important things of getting your nib adjusted in there. But you can take those and apply them with this one simple tool, and there's no difference whatsoever. So hopefully this will help out a lot, eliminate a lot of damage done to nib flanges, and eliminate a lot of people sending them to me to repair or replace, and you can do it yourself. And not only that, now these pliers that are hard to find will be readily available, because this is all I'm stocking, and I order them in quite an abundance now, so I should always have them in stock. I don't see any foreseeable reason that I would ever run out. So there you have it. That is the new pliers, and you can find them on my website at www.yokepincompany.com. Thank you.